here's Brody Brazil.
This video and its topic doesn't necessarily directly involve or impact me, but there are some things related to my background and my interests that kind of bring it to the forefront of a conversation. I'm a broadcasting person. I'm a sports person. So when a local radio station that had a long-time format switches to become sports, yeah, it's kind of all of a sudden in my wheelhouse. I've got some things to say. I've got some things to wonder. I've got some questions to ask about KGO 810 AM in San Francisco. They've been around forever. I think since the 1920s is when they signed on. But for the last 80 years, they've been a news and talk format powerhouse. Now, maybe in recent years, as with a lot of AM radio stations, their success, their ratings, their platform, maybe that has diminished a little bit. Quite honestly, I'm not fully a radio person, especially an AM person, so I don't exactly know the numbers. But I do understand that they're like 50,000 watts, their prestige, their legacy, they have been around a long time. But apparently and reportedly, and actually by the time you're watching this, they're going to be changing formats to sports. But not just sports talk, specifically all sports betting, or at least mostly sports betting. Now, they're doing this format change not from necessarily a local level. It sounds like all of their programming is going to be syndicated, meaning that their studios don't need anybody. They'll just bring in programming from elsewhere around the country, put it on their channel, put it on their station, and let it be heard on the broadcast. It's not like the other two local sports stations, 95.7 The Game and KNBR, who, by the way, KNBR is owned by the same company that owns KGO AM 810. So those two stations have their own programming, they have their own people, they stick to the local sports, and they obviously bring up betting here and there, but this would be a station that covers sports betting almost the entire time. Let me pause for a second. We'll come back to that. The way they did this, the way they changed formats, was to literally surprise everybody mid last week. Hey, stop the phones. Can you just sign off the air for a second? Yep, hit that off button. We're going to go to commercial. What? We have a group meeting. This is bad. Everybody's getting laid off. Reportedly, that's how it went down. And so let me just take this moment to say how bad I feel for everybody involved. And I don't know that I even know many people that work or worked at KGO 810, but they're people just like me that work in broadcasting, that put a passion into their job. They work the long hours. It's a labor of love in addition to a career that you're trying to build. And they got told on a moment's notice, hey, this whole thing is done. We're done. I've actually been there before in that type of situation. It's not fun. It's not memorable. It's pretty much like a nightmare. And so I just want to say, before we discuss this conversation any further, that part of it is frustrating from me in this perspective, that it all ended for some hardworking people that were just doing what they were supposed to do. And somebody on a whim changed their mind, changed the decision. Would heads up have been polite or at least professional or courteous? And I don't know how people are being taken care of or not, but for an 80-year format to just go, whoop, see you later. And I don't know that it was a 100% surprise, but certainly nobody was expecting that out of the blue. So back to this format change. All sports, but all sports betting, and not necessarily on any local level. Is this something that, I don't know, people are interested in? Sports betting in California, by the way, it's not even legal yet. 26 and 27 are on the ballot, as you're probably very well aware by all the political advertising lately. I'm not going to take sides on that. I'm not even going to have a shared position on that. But I just want to point out that they're changing formats like months ahead of it even being legal, and let alone once it gets voted on, I'm not even sure if it immediately can take place like January 1st, 2023. So I don't know what's the true benefit of this yet. Maybe they're just jumping ahead of the curve. Maybe they're trying to lay some groundwork, and I would understand that. But I'm wondering, what's the payoff in this? What are the ratings going to be like here? If radio is a medium that requires an audience and it requires some type of, reward of listenership, then is this going to do it? Or maybe there's other rewards. Maybe there's other ways for them to monetize their signal and their programming. I don't know. But I'm mostly curious from what you think. So put it down in the comments. I would love to know right here, right now, since you're here. Is this something that you'd be interested in? If you're somebody who bets on sports a lot, do you like to just hear other people's opinions and conversations and stories? And maybe they'll get into fantasy too, and not just, actual wagering. And fantasy is kind of like wagering, but of a different flavor. I'm just curious because this to me, and as somebody who works in sports, it's revolutionary. Check this out. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, like when KMBR went to all sports, that was like, wait, you're going to do a radio station that's all sports all the time? What, you're going to run out of material? So I just want to point out, we have to understand here that evolution happens, and even the things we're accustomed to now were once weird. And so if this feels a little bit weird right now, maybe in 5-10 years it won't. And you'll be like, oh, I remember when they signed on and we thought that was a big deal, and it wasn't, and it turned out well. I don't know. How do you think this will go? I mean, you're going to be the target audience. If you're here on my YouTube channel, they're probably hoping you will listen to this. My thing too is just from the national level, the reason why you'd be compelled to listen to KMBR or 95.7 The Game is because they're talking about your teams. And they vary and stretch. And I realize they're not maybe talking about all of your teams, but they're keeping it local. For what they do, they're keeping it local. You want to hear more about Jimmy G? You got it. You want to hear more about Draymond's situation and the practice punches? You got it. It's what they do. Like this station, if they're really going to keep to wagering, like, is there enough content for hours and hours on end? I don't know. I'm doing this whole video. How long have I gone here? Like 7 minutes or more. I'm just trying to gauge your interest, your opinion. I don't have a slant or a stance, honestly. I don't know. This is all new to me. So the only thing I do want to point out is how bad I feel for everybody who worked their butt off at that station. It just got, hung out to dry on a moment's notice. So other than that, I've got some questions, and I can't wait to hear your answers.